Hi, my name is Amy, and for the next few minutes, I'd like to tell you why the way your students think about knowledge is impacting their education and their worldview. Upon completion of this presentation, learners will distinguish between a growth and fixed mindset, explain why a growth mindset sets students up for success in life, discuss how retrieval changes a student's brain makeup and pathways, and list several ways teaching can be tweaked to improve student learning success. Attitude is everything. Throughout life, we're surrounded by two types of individuals: those who think they can do whatever they set their minds to, and those who think they can only do so much. It is little surprise to discover that the individuals who don't give up can, in fact, accomplish amazing things. Nor it is a surprise when we find the ones who think they're only able to accomplish certain things never make it past their self-imposed limits. Why do some people refuse to give up when faced with adversity? When he was young, teachers told Thomas Edison he was too stupid to learn anything. As an adult, he was fired from his first two jobs for not being productive enough. As an inventor, Edison made 1,000 unsuccessful attempts at inventing the light bulb before he succeeded. Yet today, he's often considered the greatest inventor of all time with 1,093 U.S. patents. Michael Jordan was actually cut from his high school basketball team. He didn't give up and has said, "I have missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I have lost almost 300 games. On 26 occasions, I have been entrusted to take the game-winning shot, and I missed. I have failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." In her book Mindset, Carol Dweck explains how, as a young researcher, she encountered what she termed alien children, who, when encountered with a difficult puzzle, exclaimed pleasure because they loved a challenge and they'd hoped this would be informative. The fact that some individuals thrived when faced with difficulty instead of giving up inspired her. Dweck wanted to understand why and how a person's mind could turn failure into a positive thing. In her studies, she discovered the secret was to acknowledge that intelligence can be earned. With effort, anyone can make themselves smarter. Failure isn't the end, it's just part of the process. That is what these kids already knew, and this growth mindset is what we need to instill into our students. We need to convince students that they are able to make themselves smarter. Many of our students have been told they're either smart or they're not smart. You get the intelligence you were born with. This fixed mindset hinders their learning and is an excuse to give up when things get hard. Dweck and her colleagues have been studying how one simple belief has such a huge impact on students' learning and performance. Students who accept they are in charge of their own learning go on to be better behaved, more motivated, and harder workers in school. We as educators are presented with students that each have certain aspects of learning they prefer or think they're good at, but we need to imbue them with skills and techniques for learning that will unlock their fullest potential. Teaching our students how to learn is paramount. We need to give them the tools they need to excel at learning. Dweck tells of one study in Chicago where 10-year-olds were given problems that were too difficult for them to solve. The researchers discovered two responses to the failure. The group of children with growth mindsets had responses such as, "Oh, I love a challenge," or "That didn't work, let me try something else." The group of children with more fixed mindsets had responses such as, "It's too hard, I'm not smart enough." These students give up, or even worse, run away from difficulty. This image is of the electrical activity in a brain as it encounters a learning error. The image on the left is that of a fixed mindset individual. The image on the right is that of a growth mindset individual. Students who don't give up and who struggle with learning are firing up their brains and making new connections. This effort increases the amount of learning and also the speed of retrieval. If students feel they just haven't gotten it yet, they're encouraged to keep trying. When they become accustomed to putting effort into learning, effort becomes second nature. The effort of problem solving in school and in life becomes easier. Dweck proposes we instill in our students the power of yet. What if we convince our students they haven't succeeded yet? We can teach them that success is, of course, within their control. Show them that they will eventually succeed with enough practice and effort, and in doing so, will change their capabilities in the future. We can convince them that simply not giving up is the key to everything. When learning's difficult, it means more, and it's better retained in the long term. The more these students struggle with learning, the more connections they're making in their brains. If students feel they haven't gotten it yet, but they will eventually, they're encouraged to keep trying. This inspires lifelong learning. Dweck and her colleagues have run many studies over the years and have consistent findings. Students with a growth mindset flourish not only in school settings, but in life. Knowing their hard work makes them succeed encourages them to keep trying. Students who had behavior issues have even become less angry when they realized they could change their brain for the better. Realizing they are in control is crucial. So, the question is, how do we as teachers give our students the tools they need to engage in this difficult learning? In Make It Stick, cognitive psychologists speak directly to the teachers on this very issues. Most students today are disillusioned both in how they think they need to study and in what they know before taking the exam. Students are not using their time effectively with math practice exercises like rereading, and thus are convinced they know the material for the exam. These students actually don't have the learning in their long-term memory and just days later can't recall it. We need to teach students how to succeed in school and be lifelong learners. By convincing them they are capable of building new knowledge and showing them how to do so, teachers can instill in our students a growth mindset. Teaching some simple learning techniques to our students that have been proven effective will give them the tools they need to continue on in their learning successfully. We can best do this by implementing these tools and techniques in our own classrooms. Doing so will take minimal effort and little, if no, extra class time. These minor instructional changes can reap great rewards. We have the power to convince our students that they can take charge of their learning. We can prove to them that they are capable of learning anything. Succeeding in your class is a bonus, but showing them how to succeed in life is the goal. Giving them a growth mindset is the best lesson we can teach them. Retrieval is one of the most important tools that students need to use. Every time information is pulled back out of their brains, new information pathways are created. If it is difficult to remember, the pathway is even stronger. If the wrong information is pulled out and the student then corrects it, the learning is stronger still. Frequent retrieval creates strong neural webs. Frequent low-stakes assessments are great, not only for the teacher to use to monitor what the students know, but for cementing the information into the students' minds. Assessing recent learning as well as information from previous units helps to make the retrieval more difficult, and thus better and longer lasting. Spacing out these retrievals over time by using daily and weekly quizzes over a range of information will create a neural web that the students can use to pull loads of information out readily whenever they need it. Calibration is a necessary tool to keep learning on track. When self-quizzing, students need to ensure they're actually pulling out correct information and not just what they think is the right answer. By using flashcards or other electronic self-made methods, students have the correct answer immediately accessible to check their knowledge validity. Pathways are made as information is pulled out, and it's necessary to make sure the connections that are being made are correct. One way to check your students for calibration is with whiteboards in lecture. It takes very little effort and will also keep your students engaged in the learning. By asking a question and giving your students opportunity to answer without looking it up, you're forcing them to retrieve information and being their calibration for them. This gives them more neural connections to the information and confidence in their knowledge. You are also able to see how many students need more explanation and can monitor and adjust your lesson respectfully. Students will be actively engaged. There's no downside. If cost is an issue, place cardboard inside gallon bags. Starting class with a brief 2-minute quiz not only gives your students opportunity for retrieval of knowledge, but it builds more neural connections. It's a quick and easy way to get the students settled down and can be done while you're checking homework. Giving very little points to these quizzes and dropping the lowest 10% of them from the class grade prevents the need for makeups due to absence. When new and old information are presented together, retrieval is more difficult and creates better learning. Having to pull old information out and struggle to remember how it was done is great for the student's long-term information retention. It's vital to immediately go over the assessments and correct any misinformation to keep the students calibrated. Frequent quizzing makes assessments in general less stressful for students, and test anxiety is less of a big deal. Having students put learning into their own words is a great way to cement information into their minds. It also creates yet another way to access the information and to be able to retrieve it in the future. Reflecting on what they have learned and connecting it to some of their previous learning is a very effective for long-term information retention. It's also a simple and easy way for you to provide them with yet another tool for their lifelong learning. Simply asking them to get paper out and take 1 minute to summarize the day's lesson for their sibling, friend, or parental unit gives you another score for their grade. It's also a wonderful supplemental method that uses a new pathway for the student's growing neural web. Our job is to give students the tools they need to succeed in life. As educators, we need to teach our students how to believe in their potential to learn. A growth mindset will grant them control over their own learning. We need to teach them techniques to learn as they go through life. Showing them what actually works for long-term information retrieval will pave their way as learning gets more difficult. We are here to create lifelong learners who know how to succeed both at school and at the problems life will throw at them. We have the capability to empower our students to become amazing adults. I encourage you to try to implement some of these changes in your classroom and witness the effects on your own. I guarantee you will not be let down.